We're going over some budget alternatives to some of the most expensive Commander staples.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber over there, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, which means all three of us need to eat food to survive, and you can help us directly survive by going to Patreon, hitting the directly feed BZ button, and then I will suddenly be presented with food, and I will not die.
Yeah, that button doesn't exist yet, but we're going to implement it in the next 17 years. Stick by. It will be coming soon. Until then, just have to donate to Patreon regularly.
The normal way.
Yeah, the normal way. If you would like to support us, you can use CoolStuffInc.com. It is a site for buying Magic cards and buying tons of accessories. They have dice. They have, board games. They have all of that cool stuff over there. Go there. Buy the Magic cards you were going to buy anyway and use code
Nerds.
And as long as you're using code
Nerds,
then you will get 5% off your order. Support the nerds. Support yourself. Win-win. Win-win. That's I believe Michael Scott goes for the win-win-win because he also wants to win.
Yes, and then you as the viewer win in addition to Michael Scott.
Yes. So Michael Scott wins. You win. We win. How is that not what everybody wants?
And you can use Dragon Shield, the best sleeves in the multiverse,
Good sleeves.
to sleeve up all your decks so that they don't disintegrate into nothing. They will be protected to the fullest extent of the law.
That I don't think that is true.
They'll be protected from legal trouble. That's how good Dragon Shield sleeves are.
I think we need to return a disclaimer guy for this one.
Disclaimer guy here, Dragon Shield will in no way protect you if you get in legal trouble.
Who hired him back?
It was me. See, I summoned him with the power of editing.
Most people don't even know who that is.
I know. He hasn't been around for like 2+ years. He's back, and he might get more airtime. I don't have any plans
I
yet.
sincerely doubt it. What else do they need to know about?
They also need to know that there's going to be a Maraschiello ad in this video somewhere. Guess your time codes in the description below. You will be incorrect. If you are correct, you will have cheated. I will call you out and pin your comment to show everyone that you have cheated.
And happy birthday to everyone's birthday is today. Okay, Magic cards are really expensive. Some of the most played ones in Commander are like really hard to afford, but there's other cards you can play that are obviously like slightly worse in some cases, but they get the job done. They still have the desired effect that you might not know about. So these are like budget alternatives to the most played, like ludicrously expensive Commander cards.
Yes. Yeah. So let's just hop into it. We actually have one of each color for today. So we're going to start with land tax. $39 currently. Now, I want to say something. This is going to be in a future video, I'm sure. I've come around on land tax. I'm actually, a lot higher on it than BZ. BZ's lower on land tax. So there's a disparity in what we think of it. Regardless, it is a staple of the format. It is seeing a ton of play, and a lot of people cannot afford to throw $40 at a Magic card.
Yes, and a card that you could throw $8 at is Archaeomancer's Map. And it says it's a 3-mana artifact, ETB, go get 2 planes, put them in your hand. So already you're like getting the desired effect right away, so you can make a land drop this turn. And then if somebody makes a land drop who has more lands than you, great, you get to put a land from your hand on the battlefield. So it could actually ramp you, which land tax can't do, but you're paying a premium and you can't obviously go get 185 lands over the course of the game. But I think it's better in the later turns where you just I want a plains and I don't know who has the most lands.
Yeah, which is a completely fair thing. Yeah, and it does have upsides over land tax. Obviously, being 3 mana is a big downside, but this has also become a pseudo staple of white decks at this point, where it's one of the better ways to play the catch up ramp game. Now, that is white's main way of ramp is if you're behind, it lets you catch up, and this is just one of the better ways to do that.
Yeah, and it's $8, so it's less than 25% of the price of land tax, and I would just say I think it might be a better card, or at least comparable.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the same kind of discussion. They're both staples of the format. We also have Weather Wayfarer as an alternative. This lets you, it's a 1/1 for 1, and then you tap it if someone has more lands than you, which as long as you are on the play, or you're playing against a green player, is most likely going to happen every single turn.
Well, it'll happen, it doesn't even matter. It'll happen every time land tax would have triggered.
Yes, and you can go into your deck and get the best land in your deck. Now, the weakness of this card is that as a creature, it cannot activate right away. It's susceptible to more removal stuff, and it also has a 1-mana activation, so that's a lot of downsides. But the upside of this card is huge because it goes and gets any land. So every time you get an activation, you get the best land of your deck for the turn. Was it a fetch land so you can get a double landfall? Okay, get it. Is it Nykthos because you have a ton of devotion to white? Get that. Was it Gaia's Cradle because Gaia's Cradle is the best land in the format and you happen to be playing green as well? Maybe.
It shouldn't be, because if you have a Gaia's Cradle, you probably don't need a land tax.
That's very, very fair.
How about a more realistic one? Yeah, but I think, by the way, for $3 actually is just better than land tax. I play it over it all the time. It's really, really good. If you you're sort of start playing Ancient Tombs and Nykthoses and just whatever your best land, Field of the Dead, whatever you got going on that's the best land. Weathered Wayfarer is like my go-to. I'm not saying you can't play land tax. I'm just lower on it. I like Weather Wayfarer a lot.
Yeah, and it's also a creature. That is another upside that I did not mention.
Well,
Where
you said it was a downside, so now you need to say why it's an upside.
It's both. It's both. It is susceptible to more removal spells while simultaneously having more synergy with white overall decks because they like creatures. It is an upside. It is a downside. It has a balance.
Let's go on to Gift of Estates. If you want your planes right now, this is the budget alternative for you. It's 2 mana. If somebody has more lands than you, go get 3 planes that could be any type of planes, like, your irrigated farmlands even, or basic planes, or snow-covered planes, and you put them into your hand. $1.50 really can't get much cheaper than that, and it's like a one-time land tax trigger. A lot of times I see people, the rest of the land tax triggers after the first one are just like, okay,
They're gravy,
I'm
right?
thinning my deck, and it's like kind of mostly a waste of time, but also, it thins our deck a percentage of the amount. But mostly it's like, you could have just played Gift of Estates.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Gift of Estates, but we are talking about budget. Like, we're trying to save money here, so
We're saving a lot.
You're saving a lot of money to get only one trigger. The big thing about Gift of Estates is like land tax is an enchantment that sits on the field and still adds a devotion, does little tiny things. Like, say you're playing an enchantress deck and you play land tax, it also draws you a card. But there's just Gift of Estates does almost literal nothing if they don't have more lands than you.
Yeah, it triggers prowess.
Yeah,
That's what you get with it.
Yeah.
Now, normally, this land tax thing, we try to keep it to cards that are pretty cheap, because land tax is an early play that brings you back from when you're behind. So, but we put Keeper of the Accord. It's a little more pricey, but it is way better in terms of the effect you get. It's $1.50. It's 4 mana, and every end step, if you have less lands than the person whose turn it is, you go get a land, and the same is true of creatures and 1/1s. So this can actually just give you some board presence also. So it's obviously, it's more expensive. It's more of a mid-game, early to mid than an early game card, but it'll still get the job done.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like Keeper of the Accord. I've been impressed with it. Sometimes when you fall very far behind in the game, it can really be the catalyst that gets you back into the game.
Whereas land tax might not.
Whereas land tax will not catch you up in lands. It won't catch you up in lands. That's not what it does. It's meant to make sure you don't miss land drops going forward. So if you draw this into mid game, where land tax's power is playing it in the early game, making sure you never miss your land drop. Always getting as many lands as you need, keeping your hand full, and then maybe getting lands for looting effects. There's a lot to it that can make that card very good. But Keeper of the Accord is going to catch you up on the lands that you could potentially fall behind on, especially in your white deck when you don't have green. Plus, it gives you some little creatures. I mean, that's just, a bonus on top of the land tax side that we're getting. Hey, when you're low on creatures, you'll get creatures.
Yeah, shout out to our gravy boat, since we're resurrecting dead favorites.
Yeah, gravy boat. Yeah.
It's just gravy. It's
Gravy.
just pure gravy.
Gravy.
Yeah, and the fact that you probably know this if you're a fan of land tax, but you can cheat the whole I'm behind on lands thing with Karoo and all the 2-color bounce lands. If you're playing 2 colors, that's a nice little way to go. I'm behind on lands, and Magic the Gathering's I guess he's behind on lands, and then you just get a land anyway.
Yeah, can you tell BZ was watching an arena stream before this?
It was.
Shout outs to a girl named Ron. Thank you so much for being an awesome person. Loyal Warhound is the next card here. This is just enters the battlefield, go get a basic planes, put it on the battlefield as long as somebody has more lands than you. It's pretty simple. Everyone's seen this card. It's nothing
These are the cards we play the most.
Yeah, I play this card a decent amount. It's very good on a budget. And Loyal Warhound is actually more expensive, but the worse brother of its friend Knight of the White Orchid, which is white for a 2/2 with first strike. And one of that's just you can get any planes on the battlefield
untapped.
It's untapped. So this card has way more upside. It does cost an extra white mana, but it is a much better card. I like Loyal Warhound. I play it in some of my decks, but Knight of the White Orchid's a super staple of white, I feel.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that all these recommendations for land tax replacements are only for decks that would be playing land tax. So, if you're playing green, just don't even pay attention to this. If you're a green-white deck, you should never play land tax, and you should probably never play any of these cards.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. You probably, in a green-white deck, you most likely don't want it. The one, I will say, I could see, some sort of Bant deck that wasn't focused on creatures, that if you wanted to loot a lot. Because I feel land tax is a lot of upside when you're looting.
If you can filter, that would be cool.
Yeah.
A cool way to use it.
It makes it a lot better. And the cheapest upgrade here, so if you're really trying to stick to a budget, 25 cents for Cartographer's Hawk, which, it's not a card we play too often, but it is extremely cheap. So you can get the effect, you have to attack with it, get in with it, and then you have to bounce it back.
And play it again.
It's a weird card, and it's not the strongest thing, but it is the cheapest option to kind of fill this slot that we're talking about here.
Yeah, we want to try to catch, all the cards that we would play if we're on a budget instead of land tax. I think Cartographer's Hawk scrapes it.
Yeah, especially if you care about some things like flying synergies, right? If you're playing some deck that wants a flyer, was it Safara?
Sure.
Yeah, whatever her name is.
So what is the blue expensive commander staple?
Well, it is Expropriate, which is currently $19. Now, I will say $19 for Expropriate is a lot cheaper than it's been in the past. This card has reached $50+ somewhere in that area, like a few years back. I remember like a friend giving me for Christmas, and I was like, I feel bad taking this because it was so much money back then. Now it's down to $19. It's much more reasonable, but obviously $20 is still a lot. So Expropriate says everyone gets a vote. Well, you can pick time or money. Every time vote gives you an extra turn. You get to vote. You always pick time. Every money vote gives you a permanent from that player, any permanent, and it's as a spell resolve, so they can't like sacrifice it or anything. It is a very, very strong Magic card, and one of the secret modes of this card is once 2 people pick time, you basically just win because now you're just taking 2 extra turns and 2 of the best permanents on the battlefield.
Yeah, don't pick time. That's the fun little bonus game is don't do it. You actually don't have a choice.
Yeah. So mainly for replacements, we went to the extra turn part. Stealing, there's not a lot of things that kind of do what Expropriate does in the steal department. There is one, and we will talk about it. But mostly, we went to the extra turns, like Temporal Mastery, which is a 7-minute extra turn, and then you exile it, which, a lot of these, the newer ones, especially the ones that aren't so pricey.
They're fixed ones.
They're fixed, is they exile themselves, so you can't just keep taking infinite extra turns. But this one has Miracle. If you draw it as your first card for turn, you can pay 2. So that is a broken card. That is called Time Walk.
Yeah, so you could get a Time Walk depending on what your deck wants to do. I also like Time Stretch. It's actually very close to as backbreaking as Expropriate, because like we said, if you take 2 extra turns, you probably just win. This does that, and you don't even exile it, so you could spend an entire one of those turns using Archaeomancer to get it back, and then play something else, and then take your whole second turn to play Time Stretch, and then take 2 more turns, and I've already quit by that point, so you got the victory over me. But it's 10 mana for 2 extra turns, and $5. That is very comparable.
It is really nice to see it actually be down in price because of its Dominaria Mastery. But that card was expensive for a long time. It's very good. I mean, is it the most fun card in the world? No.
But neither is Expropriate.
I mean, most extra turn cards aren't the most fun, but we're just trying to replace them. We're not trying to be the fun police and tell you what to play and what not to play.
What a dumb trick question. What should I play over Expropriate? Just don't play Expropriate.
Because it's not fun. Got him.
Not helpful.
No, it's definitely not helpful. All right. Time Stream Navigator. This one is about $4. And Time Stream Navigator is just a little tiny dude. But if you have Ascended, very easy to ascend. You have to control 10 or more permanents. That's pretty much nothing. All right. Then you pay for... Put it on the bottom of your library, because why wouldn't it? It just doesn't sacrifice itself. And then you take an extra turn.
Weirdly, this one I think is actually some of the closest to Expropriate, because it'll end the most games, because the fact that it puts itself on the bottom is weirdly good for you. There's a couple of different ways to go about abusing that. One way is to just make token copies of this thing. So if you can make 1 token copy of this per turn, that's infinite turns, because the token is just going to keep sending itself into the oblivion, and you're going to keep the original to continue making token copies of, and just take infinite turns that way. So that's very similar to Expropriate.
Oh man,
in terms of the game's over.
It goes infinite with one of the... this card I don't think has been broken yet. Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker. I don't think anyone's found... This must be the first combo anyone has ever found.
We should move in to consider that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I don't think anyone knows about Kiki Jiki. Under the radar, little card. We should spec on that.
Yes, even Brutaclad, if you have a token of it already, just kind of poop one out every turn with haste. But also... Maybe you tunnel vision yourself and you win with Thassa's Oracle. I don't know. You know the bottom card of your library. But Time Stream Navigator, one of the more backbreaking ones. Kill it.
All right, so the next one is the one that actually steals permanents. It's Blatant Thievery. 7 mana. Take a target permanent from each opponent and gain control of them. And then, you just have control of them, actually.
There is no then.
There is, and then... Nothing.
The spell goes to the graveyard.
Yeah, then the spell goes to the graveyard because now it has Resolve. This one has a lot of downside compared to something like Expropriate, whereas they can respond, they can sacrifice what you target.
Yeah, it targets.
It's not quite as good overall, but it's still a very strong card and much cheaper, around $3.
Yeah, 7 mana, take the best thing of everybody. Most of the time, they're not going to have a meaningful response like that. So you just get to end up with the best things, and now the best things are threats, so they're going to have to be answered, or they're going to accrue card advantage over the game. So Blatant Thievery is definitely a way to just kind of clinch the game. Maybe the least miserable one on here, because you're not going to be it doesn't dominate any time factor. You're not going to abuse the social contract. Just give me your stuff.
It was one of the cards I loved playing so much in my old Maelstrom Wanderer.
Just take everybody's commander. Now you have all of them.
Yeah, well, everyone... Yeah, I have 4 commanders, and you guys have none. Everyone's Epiphany is another one. This one is a 6 mana, take an extra turn, but you can foretell it, and then you get some birds when you...
You can pay too much mana to get 2 birds.
Yes, it exiles itself because it's one of the new ones, but it's only $2, so that's a nice little price point.
Is it 7 mana or 6 mana? I think it's 7 mana, and then it's 6 mana if you foretell it.
Whatever. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are right. Everyone's Epiphany is a little overcosted for a extra turn, but it is budget.
I actually think you just get the birds no matter what.
Nope, BZ was right. Yeah, you just get the birds no matter what. And I mean, I'm saying this as if everyone at home couldn't see the card over there. It's literally sitting right there. They're like, why are they arguing? I can see it.
We just want you to know that we know.
We knew. We actually knew the whole time, and I will just edit everything out that said that we were wrong.
Yep, so for 6 mana, you can part the Water Veil, take an extra turn, and you're never going to awaken it, because why would you do that? Unless you need a creature for some weird emergency reason. But it's $2, 6 mana, Time Walk, that's it.
Yeah, that one's one of the most boring ones to me.
It is the most boring
Walk the Islands has some combos, but also just 6 mana extra turn. And the upside of this one compared to the other ones we're talking about goes to your graveyard.
Yes, and you can buy it back, which is very Expropriate-esque to kind of chain extra turn.
Ugh, it can be very frustrating of a card. And
$1.50 on that.
Yeah, and Current Temporal Sundering, you have to control a legend, planeswalker, or creature.
Pretty easy.
In order to cast it. It's not that hard. I mean, your commander is guaranteed to be one of those two things, right? So as long as you have it, then you can cast this and you bounce something. And I actually had to read this because I wanted to make sure it does target a player to take an extra turn. So
you can't fizzle it.
There is one upside. It can't be fizzled, but because it targets, Deflecting Spot is a big card in this format. Sorry, and I mean, we're trying to do budget alternatives, so maybe we won't be playing against Deflecting Spot, but there is downside that comes with the upside of not being able to be fizzled.
You know what? We might come back to that later. Let's go to Deadly Rollick. That's our black expensive staple, and we thought about making this video a while ago because we've done parts of this in the past, and back then it was $34, but now it's $43. Apparently only ever going up. So we're looking for free black removal for us black players. How are we supposed to interact without spending mana? Well, there's actually a couple ways.
Yeah, we went as hard as we could. Like we want to not be spending mana. Like, so replacing Deadly Rollick, I think one of the most important part is spending 0 mana, because
we're never going to tell you to put Doomblade in instead. That doesn't accomplish the same thing.
Well, but I also want to make a point that there is a million black removal spells that could replace this. Like, we could list literally probably 50.
We're trying to accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, so we're trying, but specifically with Deadly Rollick here, we want to do the free thing. So Snuff Out is the first one. It's $11, 1/4 the price, and it destroys target non-black creature. As long as you control a swamp, you cast it by paying 4 life rather than its mana cost.
Yeah, it is never really cast for 4, but that is a bailout, just like Deadly Rollick, where sometimes you have to cast it for 4, and you're happy that you can, and it's not just some weird spell with no mana cost. But yeah, 99% of the time you're going to cast it for free. I don't think the non-black clause is as bad as people say it is. I have loved Snuff Out. I play it all the time alongside Deadly Rollick. So I'm happy to play it instead if that's what I have to go to.
I will say, yeah, Snuff Out does have downside, and I felt it. It's like, I'm not going to pretend like Snuff Out is it's a better or as good as Deadly Rollick. I'm not going to pretend like that's the truth, because it does have downside. I've been in the situations where the best 2 or 3 creatures on the board sometimes are black, and that will happen.
Right, it's like, but that's not enough to get me to stop playing Snuff Out, to be clear.
Exactly. Like, you have to deal with those bad situations, because in the best situation, this is 0 mana removal. So you take the good with the bad so that you can ultimately have this card, which the ceiling is just so high on Snuff Out.
The same is also true of our next entry, which is only $3.50. It's Lethal Scheme. It's 2 black to destroy a creature or planeswalker, but it has Convoke, so every creature that convokes it's going to connive. So not only are we maybe casting this spell for free, 4 creatures is not the most amount of creatures. We can easily do that. We're drawing 4, discarding 4 at the end of it. Draw 1, discard, draw 1, discard, draw 1, discard, draw 1, discard. And now we're getting counters if we discard non-lands. Like, there's so much room for synergy here. And like with all the free spells, which is so crucial that we wanted to replace Deadly Rollick with free spells, they're not going to see this coming. You have no mana tapped. Or you have no mana untapped.
Yeah, you just have creatures. Sure, they can be like, oh, they got 4 creatures untapped. Maybe predicted, but it's like, what if you don't have it? Then they're just being.
Oh, my opponent controls creatures.
That's just part of the game.
Yeah,
you're always going to control creatures. Lethal Scheme is just very, very strong. I've been. Oh my god,
it feels dirty sometimes. The ceiling on Lethal Scheme is way higher than the ceiling on Deadly Rollick. Deadly Rollick's just flat amazing, but Lethal Scheme can have some crazy highs.
Yeah, when you start discarding cards and getting more card advantage
Madness triggers and all this other stuff.
I mean, Lethal Schemes is super good. We've been pushing this card since its release. Slaughter Pact, the card we don't play a lot, but definitely a budget option, about $1, and you can destroy target non-black creature, and then your upkeep you have to pay for it. So you get the 0 mana interaction, you can hold up no mana, but then you will have to basically pay for the spell. And your upkeep, there is cases where you could lose the game because of this, but those are niche, but they also are funny.
Yes, they are funny. It might make for some funny.
It makes for good stories, good anecdotes.
Yeah, if you have Hive Mind in your deck, feel free to play Slaughter Pact. Also, it's the worst of these options, but I still wanted to mention it. I don't think it's stone unplayable.
No, it's definitely not stone unplayable. It's not broken, it's not busted. I think it's a fair version, but I also like this next card more, and it's even cheaper. It's Pylon, 4 mana. It has Convoke, destroy target creature or planeswalker, surveil 2. All just so much. The most important part of this is not the surveil. It is the convoke. I mean, we can cast this card for free. I think that if this card stays at 50 cents, budget staple.
This is like the budget bomb. Like, this is the deadly relic of budget bombs.
This is the budget bomb of all budget bombs for a long time. I'm a big fan.
It's only 50 cents. And if you're really sticking to that budget, we've built some $20 decks that would probably love this card. Mob is the one for you. It is 2 cents. There exists almost no cheaper Magic cards. 2 cents, 4 and a black, convoke, destroy a creature. It's like all of the same stuff, all of the same upside. You just lose like a Surveil 2 or a Connive. But saving that much money is probably worth it to some people. So I wanted to make sure you knew that Mob existed.
Yeah, if you're playing like BZ and me have built $20 decks very recently.
Very tight budget.
Very, very tight budget. Mob can be like Pylon is a great card, but it could be the Mob and Pylon can be like that 48-cent difference can be the difference between making budget and not making budget in really tight budget decks like that.
Time for the red card, and we alluded to this one like a couple minutes ago. It's Deflecting Swat, which is $60. So the reason this card is $60 is because there aren't any free replacements to change the target of spells or to disrupt a spell in red. Obviously, we're sticking to the color identity of all these cards. Why would it be useful for me to tell you to play Force of Will instead of Deflecting Swat? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about red cards. So for red, we have to forego the free thing and just go to red interacting with spells or changing the targets of spells so that your creature doesn't die to murder. Like, that's the core functionality of Deflecting Swat. So we can't mimic the free aspect, but we can mimic the stop your thing, whoops, going at your thing now.
Yeah, okay, so the first one we have Bolt Bend. This one's like about $1, $1.50. And Bolt Bend is 4 mana to redirect something, but the upside of this card is if you have something with 4 greater power, which often will be our commander in decks playing this card, then we can do it for only 1 red.
It doesn't get too much closer than that. That's almost free, right?
It's as good as you can do. Yeah, like we said, this just isn't, red just doesn't get a ton of free spells, so like Bolt Bend is what we'll take. It's only 1 red.
Yeah, the only thing about Bolt Bend is it only changes the target of one thing. So it can't be like Curtain's Call. It won't work. It has to be like murder.
Yeah, that is a little sad. But no, it does change multiple targets. Will's Reversal, 25 cents. Well, you roll a dice. If you get a nice high roll, you get to redirect it and copy whatever it was, the spell or ability. Also, those abilities, very nice. I mean, Deflecting Swat does both. Nice that this does both. But if you low roll, you just get to do a nice deflection. Still good either way. And if you are lucky with dice, this card actually has a big upside.
It's 2 in a red, right?
2 in a red, yes.
So you're really not. No, you said nothing. So I was
just
just
okay.
trying to make sure.
Fair,
but it's really not ripping you off.
It's not a ripoff because you ultimately steal the spell, right? And when you copy, it's like this card's really worth it. I would say if you're lucky with the dice rolls, play this card.
Yes, I think that it's worth noting that the Will's Reversal ceiling is higher than the Deflecting Swat ceiling. If you're paying mana for Deflecting Swat, Will's Reversal is actually just better if you copy the spell.
Very fair, yeah. I mean, obviously we know Deflecting Swat's insane. So
right. I'm never going to say Deflecting Swat is worse than Will's Reversal, but the ceiling of paying mana for the spell, Will's Reversal is actually higher.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Wild Ricochet is the next one, 2 red, and then we take a spell, we change around that target, and then we also copy that spell. So it's basically the high roll of Will's Reversal, but it's guaranteed to happen for an extra red mana.
Yes, this is your Karn's Temporal Sundering Nightmare. It says, I'll bounce your 2 things and I'll take 2 extra turns.
Oh my god, no, that's not cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awful for them.
It is cool, but that's not
serves
cool.
them right. If you're playing Karn's Temporal Sundering, there's no rules here. I'm wild ricocheting that.
You want the real feel bad?
Time stretch.
Oh my god, that's like, I'll take 2 extra turns. Actually, I'll take 4 extra turns.
Good thing you spent 10 mana on that. What a deal.
GG.
Yeah, that's the absolute GG. Wild Ricochet, so it has high potential for blowouts, but it's so much mana. You really got to leave up 4 mana. So maybe in a Sunforger deck or something, you can get some value out of this.
All right, this next one. This one is silly.
Here's your jank.
This is the coolest one. It's Emissary of Grudges, 25 cents. It's like nothing. You don't have to spend much to get this card.
You spend 6 mana.
Yeah, you do. So when it enters, you choose a player secretly. And then to activate its ability, you reveal the player you chose. And when you do, you change the target of a spell that targets you or a creature you control, or a permanent you control.
Right, so once you invest this creature, you actually do get a Deflecting Swat. You get free interaction because this creature will already be out, and later on, you get to change it for no mana. So you do get free interaction, and there is a little bit of a bonus, not only because you have a chunky random flyer, but because people might not use their removal because they don't want to get blown out.
The threat of activation, right? They don't know who you chose. Ultimately, you did it. You chose. They don't know if it was you or the other two opponents. So if someone's got like that beast within and they're like, oh, I want to answer their thing, but I don't want to get blown out of the water.
Yeah.
They might not use it. So the threat of activation actually gives you a little upside. Not that this card is like, I mean, we're hyping up this card because it is cool, but
It's bad. It's bad but cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for like specifically that little chaotic redirect, like this is your mega jank option.
Yeah, and these next couple of options that we're about to list is just more interaction for red. There's not that many good deflecting spot type effects, so we wanted to just say, hey, let's interact with spells in the stack. You can play Pyroblast, which is $5, or Red Elemental Blast, which is $1.50. They're both like the same card. You destroy a blue permanent or counter a blue spell. They're very specific, and I would say you want to play these in higher power, because like we're talking about like more in your like. Where would you play deflecting spot? Very high power, like almost competitive.
There's a lot of pressure for you to resolve your best spells. So like protecting your commanders is like a definitely super high value thing. Well, here you go. It's only 1 mana. And do you remember which one is technically strictly better?
I believe Pyroblast.
Yes, it's Pyroblast because it just says destroy target permanent if it's blue. So you can always cast it,
Yes.
even if there's no target.
Yes.
Well, even if there's a target, you can just target a land.
Yes.
It won't
Also,
die.
yeah, it has the Pyroblast will always have the interaction of if you ult deck Faden, I can gain control of your non-blue creature by
It's
targeting
just
it.
I love that dumb random upside. And Tybalt's Trickery, I think this card is kind of a meme, but I have seen it do things, and it is a little bit of disruption. It's kind of like Chaos Warp for spells. I'm not even going to read it. That's basically what it is. It's $3, 2 mana, so it is cheap interaction, and it will, in red, guaranteed stop a spell coming at your thing, which is hard to come by. They're going to get a different spell, but I guess we just hope it sucks.
Yeah, you did a good job explaining Tybalt's Trickery. It's chaotic, right? You add a little bit of chaos, but also it ultimately is a counterspell.
There's a little bit of a guarantee. You won't have that spell coming at you. What's
Yeah.
the green card? This might be the most expensive one we've ever done.
Well, it is actually Gaia's Cradle, which is a $900 Magic card. Well, so Gaia's Cradle is obviously not even close to the World of budget, and the options are all much worse. To be very clear, so
How could they not be? Gaia's Cradle might be the third best card in the format.
It's one of, if not the best card in the format. It is up there. It is amazing. So for our alternative options, we actually start with the land. It's Nykthos Trend and it's $38, which is more expensive than some of our other cards we're talking about, which is hilarious to think about.
What is that, like 30-ish times cheaper?
But when you're talking about $900, $38 is a great budget option, which is funny. It's like $38, that's not budget. It's like, but the other card's $900.
Yeah, you could get 10 Nykthoses and still feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, you get 10 Nykthoses, and you still haven't even spent half of a
Buy a
guy's
Nykthos for every deck you have. So Nykthos is for like monocolor decks or two-color decks that are going to have a lot of one color out. But it does a really good impression. You could still untap it to generate a ton more mana. You can still tutor for it with all the same stuff, crop rotation, Elvish Reclaimer, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're not really here to like praise up Nykthos. It's just the idea is, hey, it's an alternative to Gaia's Cradle in certain deck lists, right? It's an amazing card. We've already we're not trying to pretend like we've discovered Nykthos. Everyone's known about Nykthos.
You might not know this one weird trick.
Yeah, you might not know. It's Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, one of the most popular cards in Pioneer.
Let's get to the closer ones.
Yeah, Growing Rights of Itlamok. So Growing Rights of Itlamok is $20, but when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4, put a creature from them into your hand. Then transfer to control 4 or more creatures, flip it. It is Gaia's Cradle on the back. Task for mana or task for mana equal to your creatures. This card is, again, it's $20, so it's not super cheap, but again, we're comparing it to the Cradle.
But you get a Cradle. Like if you just go through the hoop and you have a couple creatures in play, you just get a Gaia's Cradle, and the ceiling is higher once again because it always makes mana. It doesn't care about the creature count only. You can always tap it for just a green, and it draws you a card when you play it.
Poor Gaia's Cradle with its downside of not tapping for a mana.
What a bad card.
What a bad Magic. God, Growing Rights is really awesome. And yeah, it does. When you get it going, it is better. Once it's flipped, it's better than Gaia's Cradle.
But obviously, there's a huge window to kill it.
It's a big hoop.
Yeah.
When you have to jump through a hoop to get a Gaia's Cradle, it's a lot worse.
Right.
Another card that's extremely similar, Circle of Dreams Druid, $5, green for a 2/1, and it taps for green equal to your creatures. It is Gaia's Cradle, but it's a creature.
Yes, it is so cheap and it is so functional. Make sure to give it haste, I guess. The thing about creatures, because we're talking about lands being able to be untapped and tutored for, Growing Rights doesn't have that. So you really can't find it in a green deck. So it's harder to find, which is like definitely a huge knock. But like Circle of Dream Druid, we can find creatures in green decks all day. We have Court of Claw, we have Eldritch Evolution. We have like any of the finale type cards or whatever budget version that you want to use. Circle of Dreams Druid, very findable, and it pops off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It absolutely pops off.
Creatures are even easier to untap.
And you know what else pops off? Moxfield.com.
Moxfield.com.
Literally the best deck building website out there. I know what everyone was thinking.
Where is it?
Did the Nitpicking Nerds forget? No, we've actually never forgot. Go watch every single one of our videos and double check.
We've bamboozled you.
Yeah, we've bamboozled you because it's in there. I promise you, it's in there.
Get tricked, nerd.
Yeah, get absolutely tricked. And make sure you're watching every video because that's really important. So this
the whole way through.
The whole social experience.
And then watch it again.
Yeah. So Moxfield.com is where we put every single one of our decks. If you want to see a Nitpicking Nerds deck list, head over to Moxfield.com and you will be able to see all of the decks that we currently have built in paper and even more decks that we've been theorizing.
And you can follow us on there, and I'd highly recommend you do so because we are going to shoot for the moon here. We're going to be the first, not only are we the most followed account already, but we're going to shoot for the first account on Moxfield to hit 10,000 followers. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's history.
Go. We're going to be the number one account, which we already are. We're going to be the number one account that has 10,000 followers. Let's go. Let's get to 5 digits, and then we'll talk about 6 digits. As soon as we have 5 digits, next stop, 6 digits.
Yes, and we're gonna skew a little bit out of green for a second. This is a red-green card. It's Xenagos the Reveler, and it's 50 cents. One of the cheapest planeswalkers. One of the best budget-bound planeswalkers, I will also say. His +1 is a red-green, split it however you want, Gaia's Cradle. So you make a green or red for each creature you control. The rest of the card sure does exist, but that part is actually great.
But when you don't need the mana, which will be some certain situations, it does make a creature, which, yeah, its ultimate is its +1. Like, ultimately, that's the best thing this card does. We're making a ton of mana, and it's cool because if you have creatures on the board, when you play this, it just activates right away, whereas something like Circle of Dreams Druid, which I think is a better card, but it has a downside of having to wait to untap with it.
Yeah, Xenagos has some stuff going for it, but it is a green-red card, so be warned. Next, we're going to keep going to green cards. Karametra's Acolyte, 50 cents for a 1/4 for 4 mana, and it taps for green equal to your devotion, 2 green. That could be a big number. Cherries, we like big numbers. That's how you imitate Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make a lot of green mana. When you make a lot of green mana, you're imitating Gaia's Cradle.
When you tap this for 5 mana, you go basically Gaia's Cradle, and your opponents roll their eyes.
Yeah, and they go, you have 17 creatures in play. I don't think it's like Gaia's Cradle.
What are you doing? If you have 17 creatures and 5 devotion to green?
Tokens.
They should be copies of green creatures. They should be Scoot Swarms.
Yeah, they're not always.
Yeah, they're not always. But this can make a ton of mana. For you Elf Ball players out there, we've got your Gaia's Cradle. This is Elvish Guidance. It's an aura. It's 50 cents, and it's 2 and a green. Enchant the land. It taps for green or whatever land it taps for, and then also a green for each elf you control. So this is literally turn a land into Gaia's Cradle, but for elves for 50 cents. It's very specific, but I had to mention it. Even if your deck just has a couple, like a lot of elves, but they're not elf tribal, like if you've got 20 elves in your deck for some reason, well, this seems like a pretty good card.
To be fair, Elves has like 7 versions of Gaia's Cradle in that case.
Yeah, they got Circle of Dreams Druid already, but this is like...
Well, they have Circle of Dreams Druid, they have Elvish Guidance, they have Arvish Elf Druid, they have Priest of Titania. They have a ton of things that tap for the number of elves.
This is a land. This makes your land into a cradle.
So it's more cradle.
Your Arbor Elves can just start going ham with this. I just wanted you to know. And I just want you to know about our other versions of this video, which are much older, but you can still learn a lot. And you can make fun of us if the prices have gone up or down for cards.
I don't even have...
We have Budget Alternatives Part 3.
I don't even have my purple hair yet. That video is so old.
Real old.
It's real old. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.